As we all know, LeBron James is one of the greatest players of all time. His seemingly never-ending dominance of the NBA has been something that even if you aren't a LeBron James fan, you can still marvel at. He can basically do anything. He scores, rebounds, defends, facilitates. He's a leader, but one of the biggest and most interesting parts of LeBron is his ability to remember. His basketball brain is uncanny, and maybe there is more than just being able to remember certain plays and moments. Can he really recall everything he sees? ESPN analyst Rachel Nichols alluded to this, and she isn't the only one, but this is what she had to say.
LeBron has what is called an eidetic memory, or what some people like to call a photographic memory. And if you have spent any significant time around him, it borders on spooky. He once offhandedly mentioned to me something about a shirt I was wearing the first time I interviewed him, which was 15 or 16 years ago. He can tell you the exact meal he ate at a restaurant that doesn't even exist anymore, and trust me, you do not want to argue with him about a line in a movie. He is always right. But he uses his memory most for cataloging every single thing that has ever happened to him on a basketball court. If you have tried to guard him in a certain way, LeBron remembers it. He also remembers how often it worked, when it didn't, and why, and all of this is just available to him on the surface of his brain without him having to dig for it. Which is why when we see opponents flinging themselves at him in all manner of fashions, he looks like he knows what's coming before it happens, because he does. And because each season, each postseason, he is only adding to that mental database. So each postseason, he is only getting better at this.
In Brian Windhurst's article, Total Recall LeBron's Mighty Mind, he said, and I quote, "The memory. It can inform him. It can engage him. It can turn on him. It can attack him. It can," he says, "hinder him in ways that are far harder to treat than a sprained ankle. And learning to control it has been a fight as great as any other in his career." LeBron said, "When I was a kid, my coaches started to say to me that I remembered things that happened in games from a few tournaments back, and that surprised them." James says, "I started to realize how important that could be years later, probably when I was in high school, and then eventually I realized that it can get me into trouble." So, here are 7 reasons to believe that LeBron James has a photographic memory. But firstly, if you enjoy these types of videos and you are new around here and you haven't hit that subscribe button, it takes 2 seconds and you're going to get NBA videos like this every single week. We have so many more stories like this coming out over the next few weeks, so you want to hit that subscribe button. I also just want to say a massive thank you guys for all the support recently. It really does mean a lot, and it would be amazing if we can reach 1,000 likes for the next video. And with that said, let's get into the 7 stories. But before I do that, I have to give you an explanation as to what the difference is between a photographic memory and an eidetic memory. So according to a quick research on Google, there is a definite difference between an eidetic memory and a photographic memory. Everyone has an eidetic memory. However, this memory lasts less than 1 second for most people, no more than a few seconds for others. Photographic memory is the ability to recall an image for a much longer period. LeBron James is somebody who I believe to have a photographic memory, and here are 7 stories that really proves that. At number 7. The first story comes from the start of this season, the 2019-2020 NBA season. Mike Trudell, who works as a Lakers broadcaster, shared this story on LeBron and his ridiculous mind.
There you are, and LeBron, so focused this year, so ready to go. What's his take on this game tonight against the Jazz?
On any off night the Lakers aren't playing, LeBron sits in front of his TV and is watching every game, not just a couple. He says literally every single game. He has a TV in which there are up to 9 games can be seen, and his recall about what's happening is ridiculous. In practice yesterday, he took us through an entire 4th quarter and overtime sequence between Minnesota and Brooklyn, and then went on to focus on the Utah game. Now, I asked him about that retention, and he said he doesn't actually have to write anything down.
I don't really jot down notes too much. It just goes into my mind. I'm able to store it.
Like Jay-Z?
Yeah, like Jay-Z. There's a few of us in this world.
I said, okay, so kind of like Jay-Z. Jay-Z famously, a villain suit, does not need to write his lyrics down. It comes up in the head and he keeps it there. And LeBron said, yeah, that's the one thing that we have in common. There are a few of us like that out there.
A very few.
At number 6, the infamous Boston Celtics game. If you haven't seen this clip, I would be very surprised, because this is the clip. If you're ever going to show somebody that LeBron James has an incredible mind, this is the clip. A few years back, when Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics were emerging in the Eastern Conference, a reporter asked LeBron James what happened in the fourth quarter of a recent Cavs playoff game against the Celtics. He gave a play-by-play analysis with such accuracy and detail that he was not just applauded by the reporters in the room, but also by the internet, in addition to NBA players and head coaches who marveled at his memory.
The start of the fourth, I think they cut it to 14. Do you have any idea what happened there?
What happened? We ran him the first possession. We ran him down all the way to 2 on the shot clock. Marcus Morris missed a jump shot. Followed it up. They got a dunk. We came back down. We ran a set for Jordan Clarkson, and he came off and missed it. They rebounded it, and we came back on the defensive end, and we got a stop. They took it out on the sideline. Jason Tatum took the ball out, threw it to Marcus Smart in the short corner. He made a 3. We come back down, missed another shot. Tatum came down and went 94 feet, did a Euro step, and made a right-hand layup timeout. There you go.
I will never not be amazed at LeBron's uncanny ability to recall the game play by play, just the way he did just then. It's pretty incredible, and not only does he do this once, but he does this all the time, and it's kind of scary. At number 5, David Griffin, the past GM of the Cleveland Cavaliers and now current GM of the New Orleans Pelicans, relayed a story in a podcast relating to LeBron's mind. He says, there was for instance this one time when he told the Toronto Raptors' Patrick Patterson where he was supposed to be standing for a play. He said,
"There's literally nothing you can show him that he can't do. There's no play you'll run against him he can't name, and then go out there and teach your players how to do it better than anybody else." But I was also in the gym when I watched him on the floor against Toronto tell Patrick Patterson where he was supposed to go on the play they had called out of timeout late in the fourth quarter. He's like, "No, Pat, you're supposed to stand over there and you're going to pin down for DeMar over here."
Wow. That's hilarious.
That's who he is.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find the exact clip of this play, but it's a pretty cool story. But this next one is even crazier. At number 4, a childhood friend told ESPN that he was able to crush any game when they played Madden as kids because he could literally remember all the previous plays they ran. In a column written by Brian Windhurst, interviewed one of LeBron James' friends in high school, and he said this: "Playing video games with LeBron James is so annoying. When we were growing up, we used to play this fighting game on the Sega Genesis called Shaq Fu," said Brandon Weems, James' lifelong friend. LeBron was the only one who had memorized all the moves, and so he'd win every time. We all thought he was definitely cheating. When you play Madden with him now, you have to be careful which teams you take, because he will know what your game plans were in the past when you've played with him, and he'll pick the opposing team knowing what plays you want to run. He also said, "You better save your favorite play too, because he'll remember what you ran before in situations and be ready for it. Your only hope is to save it until the end and try to surprise him with it." And this is what LeBron had to say about his photographic memory. He said, "I can usually remember plays and situations a couple of years back, quite a few years back sometimes," James said. "I'm able to calibrate them throughout a game to the situation I'm in, to know who has it going on in our team, what positions to put him in. I'm lucky to have a photographic memory," he added, "and to have learned how to work with it." So LeBron clearly states that he has a photographic memory, but some disagree, and we'll get into that later. At number 3. Former Toronto and Heat legend Chris Bosh recalled what LeBron James said about his own abilities once when he asked him on how he could keep all this stuff in his head. He said, and I quote, "Look, we're all professional basketball players, so when LeBron James remembers something from a basketball game, even if it's from a few years ago, it doesn't exactly blow me away," Bosh told ESPN in 2014. But it's when he remembers other stuff, like stuff he shouldn't even know, where you're like, what? We'll be watching a football game and he'll be like, "Yeah, that quarterback was taken in the 4th round of the 2008 draft from Central Florida or something." And I'll be like, "How do you know that?" And he'll be like, "I can't help it." Sometimes when we come into our morning meetings on game days, NBA TV will be on, and there'll be some classic game on. LeBron will take one look at it, and he knows what game it is. He'll be like, "Oh, that's game 2 of the 1997 NBA Finals," before they even put it on the screen. Now, that is pretty insane. Chris Bosh and Mario Chalmers told that story. It's pretty cool, and it's almost hard to believe, but LeBron does some seriously crazy things, and I do not doubt this whatsoever. At number 2, While speaking to the reporters before the Los Angeles Lakers Friday night game against the Utah Jazz, LeBron says he DVRs every NBA game. He didn't exactly say how many DVRs he has, but he smiled and said,
I got a couple. Yeah, right. All right.
James said he can watch every game at the same time and keep tabs on what's going on. He said,
no, I watch all of them at the same time. I'm serious.
No, I believe you, right.
I can watch every last one of them at the same time. And then, depending on the game and the score, like the Brooklyn game in general, I saw the last, possession.
LeBron also said that if a particular game catches his interest, he'll focus on that game. James then showed off his photographic memory, reciting the end of the fourth quarter of the Brooklyn Nets Minnesota Timberwolves season opener.
Tie game. Well, Kyrie went up 3, hit the 3. Cat came back, tied the game. Kyrie got a pick and roll, got iced, pocket pass to Jared Allen, missed 2 free throws, rebound Taurean Prince, block shot. Andrew Wiggins missed overtime, so I watched all the way until Kyrie missed the shot at the end of the overtime, and then I watched the rest of the games as well. I watched obviously a lot of the OKC Utah game because we play Utah tomorrow, and CP is a great friend of mine. I watched all of the Cavs Orlando game, all of the Boston. You want me to keep going?
No, I hear.
I watched every game.
I believe you.
I pretty much know what happened.
Yeah.
LeBron, however, said that his viewing habits are simply not for pleasure, just like casual NBA fans, or any NBA fans for that matter. LeBron says, I don't watch basketball for entertainment.
Entertainment? What do you mean?
Well, like, I mean, obviously you're
I
watching...
don't watch basketball for entertainment. I'm a fan of the game as far as I'm a cerebral guy. The entertainment is like watching a concert. For me, watching a concert and being able to sit there and just be like, wow, this is great. For me, basketball is like reading a great book for me. I don't believe great books are entertainment. I think it's something that just continues to strengthen the mind. And that's what I love about basketball. It continues to strengthen my mind every time I watch it.
And at number 1, after a sweep of the Pacers, he was asked about playmaking help he'd gotten from then teammate Darren Williams and offered this example. You saw that one possession where he swung it to me. I hit Channing Frye.
Channing swung it to him. He pump fake Miles Turner, looked off Paul George and laid it up. So it's kind of crazy. I can replay all the plays in my head, huh? Yeah, because I don't like talking about me too much.
But this is where it gets interesting, because some disagree that LeBron James actually has a photographic memory. Does he really have a genius level memory, or is it something else in play here? As you heard previously, LeBron admits he can. He says, I can usually remember plays in situations a couple of years back, quite a few years back sometimes, James says. I'm able to calibrate them throughout the game and into the situations I'm in. But Joe Stone is a senior lecturer in skills acquisition and performance analysis at Sheffield Hallam University's Academy of Sport and Physical Activity. He told the BBC that LeBron James' incredible recall is actually quite normal for elite sports players and amounts to the fine-tuning of the brain. He said, and I quote, "The original research was the master chess players in the 70s, looking at how they can recall and recognize patterns of a play," he says. And then sports expertise researchers caught onto that and moved it into the sporting domain to see if sports people can do the same thing. So that was first done in the 1980s in basketball. They build up these really specialized and refined knowledge structures in their memory, and then that allows them to predict or anticipate play. Now, what do you think? Do you think that is correct? Because we've seen Draymond Green do something similar where he can recall players drafted before him.
Number 1, Anthony Davis. Number 2, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Number 3, Brad Beal. 33 was Bernard James and 34 was Jay Crawford.
Unbelievable.
But then Draymond also gave LeBron his props and said that
that was impressive.
He got applause for it even.
He should have got more than that. He should have got a standing ovation. That was very impressive.
But could you do the same thing, I imagine?
Yeah, I think I can. But nonetheless, that was impressive.
So how much of it is that LeBron James can actually know, or is it something he truly has in his brain? Let me know what you think. This is not to say that LeBron James is lying or anything that he says is false about his photographic memory. I just want to give you two sides to the story. Eidetic memory is something where you can remember, but it's not photographic.
You know, I did a podcast with Larry Bird like 6 years ago, and he was just casually, I remember bringing up some game and he remembered all the details from it. It was some random game, you know, 37 years earlier. There must be something in these people's brains. Like you said, it was like a computer that's constantly learning, where they're just downloading information all the time and it never ends, and they can just reach into it and do whatever they want.
With that said, if you want some more crazy stories with LeBron James' mind, you can go to the link in the description. There's a whole Brian Windhurst article of LeBron James' memory stories, which is a pretty cool read if you want to read it. But let me know what you think.